Mark Griffith here, welcome. Today we're reviewing the 500mm Minolta MD ROKKOR X lens. Now it's also called the RF ROKKOR, and it's called the RF because it's a reflex mirror design. So you'll notice it's quite compact, and it is a 500mm focal length. So normally if you had a 300mm lens on this camera, you'd expect something about this big, and 600mm, even bigger again. This thing can do 500mm because it's made up of mirrors. So the light comes in, it's bounced back onto a secondary mirror, and then back through again out the hole in the middle. Now, this design has its drawbacks. Number one being you cannot adjust the aperture in any way. So this is a fixed aperture, it's only f8. And also what you'll find is any out of focus elements will have a unique, distinctive donut shape. And you can guess why. It's because the light goes in around the outside, reflects off the main mirror in the back, and then there's a secondary mirror in the middle which makes that donut. Now the construction, it's all metal, high quality for its era. These lenses are just fantastic as far as build quality goes. Now the focus throw, it's just under 180 degrees there, and we'll find out that that's not quite enough in my opinion. They do come with a lens hood on the front here. Even this is the longer lens hood, and it's not long enough. You'll find that it's not long enough. Really good if you get a bit of black cardboard or something and wrap it around there to make a longer lens hood, because this is a bit susceptible to flare. And another thing is, if you do get one of these, don't do that up too tight. Even if you just do it up finger tight, it becomes really, really hard to undo. So just a warning there. It will take filters on the front. I think it's a 77mm on the front there. Might even be bigger than that, quite big. But on the back here, it takes filters in the back here. So if we unscrew this filter here, this is just a plain glass filter. And when you buy these, you want to make sure... Now when you buy these lenses, you want to make sure that it's got this filter in the back here, the clear one at least. Because if that is missing, it may throw the actual performance of the lens off a bit, because that glass is calculated into the whole optical formula of the lens. I haven't tested that, but that's what I've heard. Now I'll show you what you get in terms of other filters. Like the original lens, as you bought it, it would come with 4 other filters. A yellow one here, a Y52, an ND by 4, an orange one, that's an O56, and lastly an R60. Now probably the only useful one for modern day photographers would be the ND filter. It's only a 4x ND filter, but you may find it useful if you're filming video and really bright light. So worth, if you are going to purchase one of these lenses, make sure you've got at least that filter in the back there, otherwise you might be in a little bit of trouble. I don't know if you can replace these with 37mm red on there. If you do get a good one with the original case, it's got a leather case, and in the top you'll find these little filters in the top of that case there. Anyway, let's take this for a walk around and we'll see what sort of footage we can get out of it. Let's go. To give you an idea of the focal length, our next shot we're going to be looking about here. Alright, these are shots as it comes straight out of the A7S. I use a flat profile, S-Log2 if possible, and I've turned down the sharpening in camera. And this is after I've adjusted contrast and added a little bit of extra saturation and a tiny bit of sharpening as well. Of course, you're going to need a tripod when using this lens, and it's really only good for static shots because any touching of the camera or the lens is going to cause vibration and make the shot look pretty bad.
I just missed the focus when I stopped changing the focus here. It's quite difficult to get the focus. It does have quite a narrow depth of field. Now, the way I use this lens is I get my focus, usually using the zoom functions of the camera, and then just let it go, hope it's framed right, and let it film. On the full frame sensor, the sharpness is more than adequate for HD video. It's also probably wouldn't do too bad at 4K as well, but on an APS-C sensor, I wouldn't push it any harder than just HD video on APS-C size sensors. So this is full frame on the Sony A7S, and this is the APS-C crop mode on the A7S, and we can bump that up a bit further. The A7S has got some great cropping abilities with HD video, and this is 2x clear view crop and APS-C together, and you can see that sharpness is down a little bit, and our main limitation here is actually the atmosphere, and the heat coming off the mountain there is making the image a little bit blurry. Alright, another subject without the heat, haze. This is Sony A7S full frame, and I've done my best to get the focus right there. And now we'll switch it to the APS-C mode on the A7S, so that's a 1.5 times crop and an equivalent of 750 millimeters focal length. And then we'll go a bit further again, and we'll use the 2 times zoom and the APS-C crop, so we've got an equivalent of 1500 millimeters there. Now you're looking at, you may have noticed the colors look a bit different. The lighting has changed because I was probably about half an hour after those other shots, but this is the EOS M, and that's a 1.6 times crop factor. And Magic Lantern also has its own crop video mode on the EOS M, and I've got to do some maths, but that's a little bit tighter than what the Sony A7S does there. Okay, we'll stick with the same sensor now. I'm back on the EOS M, and this was shot in Ecuador, and I've owned these EOS Ms for quite a while, and this is not one of the better shots I got, but it's going to be in one of my upcoming little mini docos, and I'm just looking at the behavior of this bird and how long his tongue gets and stuff. This is a little violet-fronted brilliant, and they're really, really beautiful hummingbirds, but you can see the out of focus elements in this, they don't look quite right. They could look a lot better. So the way to get away with it with this lens is to make sure that you use it in a situation where the out of focus elements are going to be a much further away than your main subject. And here I was really lucky. I nailed the focus and I got some really nice shots of this little guy. I was really happy with this. A slight change of position and a refocus, and it's even sharper. And basically, even if you're doing your best to get the focus right, it is quite often a bit hit and miss whether you nail it or not, because the actual depth of field on this thing is really, really small, and that 180 degrees, you're just turning it just slightly just to fine tune that focus, and it would really do a lot better if there was a much bigger focus throw on this lens, particularly if you're using it as with an APS-C sensor like this here. But the sharpness is definitely there, and I was really happy with this. Again, the Magic Lantern crop sensor mode, and we've got a really long focal length now, and I really nailed the focus. I was really lucky on this one. I have added a little bit more sharpening to it to bring it out a little bit, but still that shot is perfectly usable in HD doco in my opinion. Being a mirror lens, it's not too bad at astrophotography. Now these are exposures of 1.6 seconds at 400,000 ISO on the A7S, and I'm doing this without a tripod as well, and then we put it in a Star Stacker software to get this picture of Omega Centauri, and with the naked eye or binoculars this is just a fuzzy spot, this one here. I was quite happy with these results. And this is Eta Carina, 400,000 ISO, 1 second exposures. The best telescopes are all mirror designs, and this is to prevent chromatic aberration, which this lens handles very well as well. As you can see with those point light shots of the stars. There's no color in there at all, and you can see that with the moon here as well. So that there is Jupiter and its moons, and we're being photobombed by an aeroplane. Now this is with APS-C mode on, and this is with the 2x zoom on that APS-C mode as well. So in summary, for astrophotography, this lens is pretty good, provided you can nail the focus. I'm going to finish up with some of the better shots that I've taken with this lens. Check out the end of the video to some links to some raw images, so some example images that you can have a look at, and please subscribe, all that good stuff. My name is Mark Griffith, and I will catch you next time. Cheers.